everybody, this is Jay and you're watching CouraJAYus. Today just speaking my mind and telling my heart. So today I have a confession. I have an addiction. It's a really popular addiction that a lot of people might not even know they had. I didn't know I had it. It's not smoking. It's not alcohol. It used to be running, but now it's not even running that I'm talking about. It's an addiction to feel close to people. It's an addiction to have relationships. I'm still having trouble with this. I was afraid of being alone. I dreaded long periods of time being by myself. Have a lot of attachments that weren't healthy, or attachments that were out of fear instead of love. And at the time I thought it was love, but they were actually out of fear of losing people. And I just want y'all to wait. I'm not even talking about like relationships. I mean like romantic relationships. I mean I've been in romantic relationships that go that way, but like I mean relationships like in general. Like I mean there's sometimes I'd feel like petty or salty. I'm like, oh my god, like why are all these couple pictures on my newsfeed? But it would even be beyond that. Like even for like friendship, like I'll watch a commercial or a movie about like two best friends that are like, or like on my newsfeed I'm like, dang, like I thought that person was close to me, they didn't write me this emotional post, like what about me? And even with family members, I'll see things online, or I'll hear it from a family member how they hung out and had this great time, and I'll just be like, I wasn't invited, they hate me, I'm the worst. No, like that's, I wanted attention, or I guess, I don't know how else nicer to put it. I sound like narcissistic, but sometimes I would feel like it's my responsibility for how everyone feels around me. I would do that by making programs for people. So like if everyone is sad, I felt sad, so I felt that I had to do something about it to fix it or make everyone feel better. Like I just felt like it was my job. I have trouble knowing how I feel sometimes. Like if I'm mad, sad, angry, sometimes I have trouble distinguishing the difference between how I feel and someone else feels. I often would just be like, oh, I feel how you feel. I have a hard time voicing how I feel, like just saying it in general. Some people have treated me very, very bad in the past, like emotionally abusive, and I would find ways to convince myself that it was okay for people to talk to me that way, or somehow alter the truth in my head to make it, or convince myself basically that how they were treating me was okay. And it's crazy because once I figured out like, hey, I'm not being myself around this person, or I figured they made me mad enough to cut them off, I still somehow only think about the good memories. Like the bad stuff never even happened. I I used to judge myself very harshly, and sometimes I would judge other people harshly. I would basically put everyone's wants and needs before my own. When I was down, I just felt it was really difficult, really difficult to ask for help. I just felt like the world was on my shoulders, and that I just felt like I had to do everything, and I felt like I had to be close to people. I felt like I had to give all my love to the world. Somehow that turned into me channeling that to give. So I just gave and gave and gave, just so that I could feel people would want me, so that I could feel people want to be close to me. And my addiction to relationships and being close to people is often called codependence. Sometimes I push people away and distance myself if I get too close. I guess that's just how it works sometimes. Sometimes I would even do things for people when I need things, and I'll realize, hey, I'm doing this for this person, but this is actually what I need right now. So I'm still on the journey to overcome this addiction. It's basically fighting this thing that my counselor used to call core messages. So for me, my core message is I feel I don't deserve to be loved, and I feel like I'm never enough, which is why I often go out of my way to help everybody, even though I might be dying inside. I do that kind of stuff because I don't want people to feel as crappy as I feel sometimes, so I overgive. So the best way for me that I've learned to try to fight against this addiction, this core message that no matter what I do, I'm never good enough to be loved, or deserve to be loved, or good enough in general. I have had to do a lot of work of learning how to love myself and to give myself compassion. I used to think that I knew what that meant, but I actually didn't. So a big misconception is like, how can I love myself? Should I go to the spa? Should I go buy myself things, this and that? I mean, it's good to do those things. Definitely always treat yourself when you're down, but it's something a little deeper than that. It often comes down to forgiving yourself for something. And a lot of people are like, Jay, what does that mean, to forgive yourself? It's basically looking deep into yourself and figuring out why, like the why. So basically for me, I feel I don't deserve to be loved, and I feel like I'm not good enough, and I feel like no matter what I do, it's not good enough, which is why I kept doing things for people. I had to look deep into myself and figure out, why do I feel that way? And forgiveness for yourself works the same way as forgiveness towards other people. You first have to identify what it is that's making you feel that way. So for me, if I go back to when I was 12, I'll just say what I'm ready to talk about. So when I go back to when I was 12, people that I really cared about left me. I was often bullied. I was bullied by a lot of people, so there was a lot of toxic relationships. My family was going through things, so I put that burden on myself as if I had to be the hero and save everyone. It was like the superwoman complex. When I look back into myself, I kind of know now where that comes from. So the first step to forgiving yourself and other people is identify what it is, what you felt like you did wrong, what's making you feel this core message, and then the next step is addressing it. So it's still hard for me to address it, honestly, but I basically look deep into myself and think about what I need. Another big thing that I had to learn to overcome my codependence, my addiction, basically, to reach for relationships, to love people. I had to learn what it meant to do that in a healthy way. Self-love and self-compassion comes with setting boundaries. Boundaries basically overlaps with the idea of self-love and self-compassion. When the boundaries are like muddy, when they start getting sketchy, that's when we feel resentment towards people, anger towards people, or as they say, depression is the anger that towards inward towards ourself, which makes us feel not good enough. For me, it's hard because I used to think, oh my gosh, setting boundaries and basically setting boundaries and paying so much attention to myself. I'm thinking like, oh, that's so self-centered, like, oh, that'll come off mean. But at the end of the day, self-love is self-preservation. So it's not like don't love on people. I'm not saying not to be there for people when they need you. Like, no, do that for people you care about. But I'm saying boundaries is essential to preserve yourself and to have healthy relationships out of love instead of out of fear and codependence. If you don't like being touched in a certain spot, if you don't like being talked to in a certain way, just say like, hey, I have a problem with that, or hey, I don't really like that much, or hey, can you please not do that? You could tell people when you feel uncomfortable. I like to stick to iMessages, which is basic, but it's effective. Like, just say, when something happens, I feel XYZ. And usually, if people are paying attention to you, then they'll be like, oh, well, what should I do instead? Or, oh, what would you like me to do differently? Be prepared to say what you would like them to do differently. So I hope this topic was helpful today. I'm still working on this addiction. So I'm still learning a lot myself. So if you have suggestions for me about boundaries, about self-love, if you have suggestions on how to be more self-compassionate, please comment below or message me. I'll probably touch on this topic again because it's on my heart all the time. So I hope everyone has a good day, and I hope that whoever needs this, including myself, will come one step closer to self-compassion and loving yourself and not feeling like you need other people to do that. So, yeah, peace.